I am making you a host host here in the Zoom room, Laura. And to you on YouTube and everyone watching this later, good evening or good day this Sunday of your time, 6th of February 2022. We're going to work with the goddess of love today. And sorry for being a little late on the broadcast. It's simply because there are so many interesting questions that's been submitted to today. So I hope we get around to answering all of them. And I also want to thank all of the patrons. And I wanted to thank Kevin for your recent donation, and to Jennifer for joining up on Patreon, and to Laura for moderating this evening. So so much love to the three of you, and to all of you for being here. And of course, literally much love this evening as we are checking in with the goddess of love. And you probably know Aphrodite, Venus, this force from mythology. But what she also explains is sometimes that she can be accessed on different dimensional layers. So she of course has all the carnal aspects, but she's also the great mother, a representation of the great magnanimous mother that gives life to all things. And with that preliminary, I think I will just let her deliver her message, and wish all of you a lovely evening out there. My love to you, the love of reality I bring forward and offer to share with you this day. It is within this creation, it is within this garden that I meet you and share this loving exchange this day. And so as I join you, and I join you with the name Aphrodite, though you may know me by a different tradition, a different sensation, a different feeling, a different attraction in your life. I am ever present in all lives. I am the sweet sensation that in many ways keeps you bound here. And I am here this day to remind you that this feeling of being bound, it is exactly also that feeling that allows for the sweet sensation of release. And so you would not be here with me, and you would indeed not be here in a body, be here having this experience, if you were not attracted still to the sweet sensation of laughter, the sweet sensation of lustful longing, and the sweet release of love that is the sweet reward that lives also give in the searches and longings that you have put forward. And so in this life, you find that these tensions, these longings, these wishes, they build up, and then they release into this curling energetic ripple, this joyful sensation that rolls through you, this laughter that is embedded deep within your existence. And so laughter is indeed both the language and the musical tone of the soul. It is the signature by which you mark your ever-present being, your celebration of being someone, being you in this life. So laugh with me this evening, or at least offer a little smile to the sweetness that you have also experienced in this lifetime. And with that, I will get to interacting with you. This is indeed my favorite mode of attention, of being. It is in the mode of exchange, of embrace. Therefore, all of you are present here, all of you interacting with this message. And dear Laura, who moderates this communion this day, thank you to all of you. I, the goddess Aphrodite, I share my love this evening I share my love forever with you.
Much gratitude for your blessing, the deepest love to you.
I feel it. Thank you, Laura.
Our first question is from Natalie, and she says, Dear Aphrodite, I am currently on a journey of discovery in terms of full body massage, not sexual, at the same time natural, sensual, joyful. Basically, I'm just getting acquainted with the meridians and body energy conduction systems. I learn a lot of new things without having to look in books because my body responds with communication. There is a spot between my shoulder blades that is no longer tense or covered, but now feels like it is exposed and very vulnerable. It is like a healing process. It is as if a scab has come off. I am gently touched by this process and very grateful for it. Can you tell me more about the subject of this process? Much love, Natalie.
Yes, the love is received in return to you, dear Natalie. It is grown here this evening in this practice, shared here together by what you offer and what is offered here. And so this love you offer here, this is the same sensation that you are growing within this other exploration of sensation. This indeed is truly a radical development for you. But we can say the revolution within this is exactly that which you are pointing to. That is, it's a wordless revolution. It's a revolution that transcends the seeking out of knowledge and lexical insights, and instead it's you growing acquainted with sensation, with the deep vulnerable truth that hides within the human body, within your body, and within every unique experience. There is this unique signature of you. And so you may sense that this vulnerable area that you are detecting, you are moving forward as of indeed a type of vanguard in exploring and opening this space. This is the heart chamber where the capacity for telepathy is being built. This is the heart chamber that allows for the free exchange of and the free passage of information from the eternal to this incarnation. But this is also the space that is shielded off, glazed over, barricaded for most individuals. That is many compressions within the breathing apparatus and within the energetic heart center, blocking these off. And you may notice that, well, often what happens, and here we are speaking to your personal process, but also speaking to many others who are syncing up with this process. Often what happens is that when this space becomes open and vulnerable, it is partially triggered by an outside relationship change or upheaval in the relationship to, well, the physical origins or the parental figures. And it is often related also to a type of vulnerable exploration or moving into, let's say, sensations of physical discomfort with loving awareness, and thereby opening and allowing for this vulnerability to stir and awaken. And the more you can hold this vulnerability, care for it, and be gentle with it, allowing it for all the time to also, let's say, quietly creep forward into the light and tell you its message of what it is also shielding and what it is trying to protect you from, the more you will grow as a person and act as a beacon of light, not only for anchoring light into these spaces around you, but also in interpersonal exchange, allowing for love to grow between human beings. So much love here today. So much love to you, dear Natalie. Please feel blessed in exploring this vulnerability. Much love.
Much gratitude. Thank you. And I think we'll let Steve ask a question.
Greetings today, and most blessed love from the one infinite creators, and one aspect of all is one is equal. Thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure as well. Thank you for being here with me, dear Steve. My love.
Much love. I'd like to ask for some guidance on social interaction. I live in a small town, it's a very religious town, and haven't been able to find the social connections. Can you look into my town and maybe my field and see, are there things I could do besides my normal routine that might lead me to groups doing stuff, interesting stuff for me that I could participate in? Or do you see any groups that I might try and pursue or go after that are doing interesting things I can participate in?
It's a very interesting question. I am also transmitting from, well, the vessel who is translating me this day. That is this reading of the collective area where you live and trying to discern what energies might be present and welcoming to you there. Well, there are certain, say, caveats around this. That is, you may also consider that in the long run, you have both sought out this place because it was partially, or it was in tune with your vibration, but you may also sense that as your vibration shift, you may be called to find other spaces where, let's say, the direct or uninhibited exchange of your baseline configuration that is expressing who you really are is more welcome. With that being said, there is love to be had everywhere. And in your town, my sense is indeed that there are perhaps less radical congregations, or that is congregations who actually gather around certain messages, also of a spiritual / religious kind, but, well, that do so with also a, let's say, quite individualistic slant. You may know these people as quite eccentric. They are spoken of also in the town as someone that you perhaps would not want to engage too much with. And you need to engage with these people primarily with an attitude of excitement. That is, rather than perhaps looking for your exact soulmates, the matchups in this time in your life, it would be better to go exploring and actually go exploring in the people that you find, let's say, the craziest in your town. This craziness criteria is, of course, it's everything is in the eye of the beholder, but it's the idea of you challenging yourself socially, because within this you will actually begin to discover, let's say, more of the Venusian qualities, that is, these qualities more of the social gregariousness and the sense of being a social butterfly. And you may also, if you go back to hearing this message, you may sense that this is something that you have a reaction to, that this is not a part of your self-image, but, well, partially many of you have been through this in these years. But you may notice actually that even though this is not a part of your image, it's actually a role that is so deeply embedded within you that you will find that there will be spaces where you can begin to express yourself. And this is actually, well, my recommendation at this moment, because this also, well, let's say, releases you from some concern about the outcome of it. And instead, it's actually the aim of you going out and having fun with other people, or essentially, if you feel like you can't relate to those people, then have fun with the fact that you can't relate to them, but they are kind of strange people that you can still, it's strange being around them. That in and of itself is an experience.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, when I lived in a bigger city, I was used to finding interesting people and and kind of being in a niche there. But I'll look for those interesting people in the town. Thank you.
Our love, and have fun with those explorations. I will remind you also as I introduce this message, well, that it's my favorite mode of communion, interaction, exchange. This is actually where I exist in these heartfelt shared spaces between human beings. And so within this, there is a deep creative process and exploration of the richness and text and the textures of emotional existence. And therefore, all interchange between human beings are blessed by me. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Mandy asks, my question is regarding beauty and vanity. We are learning of our divine aspects and how we are ultimately extensions and expressions of the one infinite creator. It feels wrong to gaze at yourself in the mirror, observing your chosen appearance due to a previous programming. What is your advice to those who struggle with guilt for wanting to be beautiful on the outside? Thank you for insight in advance. Blessings and love to you and all who will hear and see your message of love.
Yes. Well, I will say that the guilt is really a sign that you do not necessarily feel too comfortable about looking good on the outside. That is, the guilt is a sign that there is a sort of retention around this process. So if you were really truly vain, that is, if you were fully invested in cultivating your physical appearance, this guilt would not be present. So that's just to say that maybe that guilt will go away, just to be reminded by the fact that it's actually it's a proof, it itself, its presence is proof that it's not called for. But at the same time, I will also say that what is wrong with these textures and these beautiful ways of expressing yourself in the world, you are here but for a fleeting time. It is interesting that human beings, well, you tend to have this apprehension of other species where you truly enjoy cultivating them for their outwards appearance. That is, I even understand the way you breed dogs, that you often do so to simply make them look funny, not necessarily, well, pleasurable or aesthetically pleasing in any way, but simply to cultivate these unique codes. But within yourselves, you are far more ingrained within this type of dance between shame and keeping yourself down, navigating what kind of position or what kind of identity you want to express. And here, my idea is actually to see your own physical expression more as a type of an exposition for doggies, that is a type of showcasing of these, all these different aspects of playful exuberance that you have within you, because this is a part of you that you only have limited control over. That is, how you are essentially made up physically is not something that you designed for yourself, that is your limited you at this point. It is rather a type of, well, message that is moving around in the world, and that you are somehow also just experiencing. And therefore, can you have fun? Can you play around with, well, this showcasing of yourself, just knowing that this is a way of enjoying yourself in the world. And so you can even do this experimentally if you want to. You can move in the other way and then try to, well, make less out of your outward appearance, and then sense that, well, perhaps people's reactions are different towards you, or you feel uncomfortable in that way. But it is all just playfulness. It's all just you looking to express before you move back into, let's say, the skeletal regress, before you again become that which you were, which is not someone who can be vain. Therefore, enjoy vanity as you enjoy all phenomena as transitory, therefore playful and delightful. My love for this question. Enjoy the beauty you hold both within and without, dear one.
Much gratitude. Thank you. And then Carla asks, the next question I have is kind of silly. I lost a red button on a hat I was wearing. The button was sitting on the washboard in the laundry room. My husband, Mom's caregiver, and I remember it being there. Suddenly it was gone. The three of us looked everywhere for it to no avail. We gave up. The next morning, there it was sitting on the washboard again. We searched for a logical explanation, but the ones we come up with are far-fetched to me. Is there anything you can read in our energies that can explain that button's behavior? I'm grateful the button came back.
Well, I sense that this is related to you conjuring up old images of your grandfather. Well, I may present this to you rather as a type of warning, we could say. That is, what you have essentially been doing is that you have been inviting a lot of, I'm finding the most constructive, non-fearful way to phrase this, but you have been inviting a lot of parental or ancestral low vibrational energy into your space. That is, you cultivate a certain nostalgia in your being, and this adds to a type of, let's say, open but diffuse space. This is very much the space where these ancestral spirits like to pour in. So to give an example is, for instance, that whenever you take objects that have belonged to a dead ancestor or an image of them, and you hang it somewhere, and you then also talk about this object, and you kind of connect to it and discuss it, then you sort of conjure this energy field, this person into you, and then they will begin to take these type of movable objects. Notice what he's taking is a red button. It's kind of a seal of life force. That is actually how he's manifesting. So the energy that he's using to move this button around is energy that he's draining from the household, so to speak. So that's also why all three of you are, let's say, deceived by this. And it's not necessarily a malevolent presence, but you may very well consider if dead ancestral spirits is something that you would like in your house, or whether or not you might want to, well, for instance, put some lavender up under the, well, our friend here is forgetting the name, but the upper level of the front door, the entrance to the house. And this is sort of the encouragement, because it's about also fixating your consciousness into what's going on energetically for you in order for your home to stay happy and healthy. So our love and our blessings to you in this. Fresh flowers in your rooms will also be something that you can do to liven up, spruce up this, keep away the dead, and sort of banish them to their own frequency bands.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then Kevin asks, can you speak of the energy and relationship between my mom and her mother. My grandmother was not the best mother to my mom when she was growing up. Currently, my grandmother is in her 90s and at the end of her life. She is experiencing mental and physical challenges and lives in subpar conditions. My mom visits her mother as often as possible and supports her in any way she can, but I feel there's a lot going on under the surface. Can you share your perspective on how my mom is doing internally with all of this?
Yes. See, this is quite a beautiful question, but it perhaps also needs to be addressed on a different level than you may expect, dear Kevin, because, well, ask yourself, why is it that you are bringing this question to me, this motherly force of love? And why is it that you believe that I can offer this peek internally into your mother's state? See, what I'm pointing to here is the circumstance that you may sense that the fact that you are unable to ask your mother how she's really feeling about this, that is the reason that you are coming here with this question, rather than being able to trust your mother's emotional state and her ability to share that openly with you. It speaks to the same wound being present, though to a lesser extent, in your relationship to your mother, as it is present with your mother's relationship to your grandmother, to her mother. That is, she also feels that she cannot perhaps trust to her mother to share openly. And well, the things that her mother shares are not coming from a place where they are, let's say, honest or authentic. They are rather coming from quite a negative place of survival codes. And your mother herself feels neglected. And what she is doing here is that she is out of, well, these quite in many ways normal, but also very complex structures of guilt and obligation that she feels towards her mother. She is now trying to add that type of care, that is, she is partially, this is a very unconscious process for her, but attempting to heal her own wounds or the neglect that she experiences that is still alive in her energy body by tending to her mother. And she is feeling the frustration as this, well, that tending to her mother both triggers this inner wound, and that this wound will not be sated by this process, because this is not how you can sate such a wound. And so this is in many ways what your mother is dealing with. She's in quite a tender and vulnerable place herself, and she also feels a certain, like, she can't necessarily share this with you, that the type of service that she feels she has done to her children is to perhaps not nag them to death with their problems, to not expect them to be dragged into attending to her needs and neuroses and other things. And this is perhaps why you feel that your mother is perhaps a little blocked off from you. And this is why it's also, you may sense, in it's within your soul contract, or one of the themes that you wish to explore in this lifetime is also, let's say, how to unlock the union with what is in many ways also the wounded feminine, and to that degree also the feminine that's both self-possessed and perhaps also a little outward acting or aggressive or distancing. And these are emotional themes that will are being explored in your lifetime. And therefore, you have my blessings in uniting with more of this motherly, harmonious energy, Kevin, my dear one, my love and blessings.
Very beautiful. Thank you. And Sophia asks, Dear Aphrodite, how have I evolved since we last connected in the summer? Would you teach me something about crystals particularly suitable for this point in time? One, there's the
Yes.
numbers 1 and 15, but I don't understand.
No, we believe this may have been a formatting issue that a certain type of
Okay.
software program produced. So we will leave this, well, to other realms, but just say that the point about crystals is really that your intuition about them needs to be on point. So they do attune your energy field, but your energy field, or the bridge between your body and your energy field, is your mental realm. So the more you can attune yourself, the more you can focus, the more you can discover your own autonomy, your own ability to do this, the more you can tune into the frequency of the crystal and allow for this crystal to configure your energy field, the better you are off, because there is a certain, let's say, draconic glee in sitting on a chest, a treasure hoard of gemstones. This enjoyable sensation, almost like a flower garden, but more dwarven, more bent into the dark realms of the earth, where you have to curve yourself to also explore. But within these realms, there is also like those riches of the mines. But you may sense that, well, it's very important to also, when you discover the mineral in the mine, to then learn to cultivate it, to retrieve it, to bring it back up into the light, to examine it, to work it, to learn the craft of fashioning it. And this also goes for crystals, for gemstones. That is, each crystal you acquire have a universe of exploration potentially within it. That is, they all have a basic frequency that you could essentially set your mind to intentionally exploring for a lifetime. And here you may want to consider the level of focus that you put forward on one thing, and, well, trying to amplify this may be something that will yield far greater results than let's say an exploration in breadth rather than in depth. That is, move into focus, move into depth. That's what we sense will unlock a new level of crystalline secrets for you, dear one.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then I believe Jennifer Cabral asks, may I ask you, Divine Aphrodite, to help me remember the path of the priestess, oracular art I once treaded? How is this ancient knowledge needed now? How do we tap into this knowledge and reawaken it in a way that is compatible with these times? May I ask you to describe my past life surroundings to help me strengthen my divination and healing abilities?
Yes. Well, this is in many ways a great and grand question. And yet you have the thread already unfolded for you. That is the oracular path of the priestess. We sense that, well, many of the lifetimes that your souls have trodden, they deal with this upkeep of the temple. You may sense that you have spent lifetimes also cultivating gardens. There is again this image of, for instance, tending to the floating gardens. Here, our friend is forgetting the word. He's suggesting the word Chinapampa, but the floating gardens of Mesoamerica and these types of cultivations. That is, there is within you a deep connection between tending to the upkeep of nature, to the cultivation of plants, and to the cultivation of the sacred. And this is where you will find your healing path. This is where you will find your path forward also in this lifetime, where you will rediscover this special purview of your soul. It is by cultivating these plants and allowing for these plants to hold a sacred space, to take a sacred space, to move in and to break what has become sterile, control, bounded, and oppressive, by allowing that force of cultivation of nature, of the exquisite flower, to move in and to break that space open. This is something that's calling you forward. We sense again here lifetimes connected to, well, Flora is a name that was given to her in close proximity to my energy, but there are different energies of this energy of, or goddess of the spring and of flowers, and you may want to explore how you have served her and that you serve her still. Much love to you in this lifetime and in all lifetimes that you walk through, carrying flowers and bringing them to temple.
So beautiful. And with that inspiration, I wanted to ask you, you work with the planetary energies of the planet Venus as well, is that right?
Yes, I am connected to that energy indeed. It is an aspect of mine.
And
or I am an
so
aspect of it is another way to put it.
beautiful. And so with the teachings that come through that lineage, are they connected with the Sisterhood of the Rose? And have you been a part of the priestess training through the Venetian energies?
Well, indeed, but here my energy is translated in a somewhat different way. That is, when my energy is harnessed and approached in this way, you may sense that it is brought forward rather as the figure or the symbol that would be more meaningful for you to connect through is, for instance, that of, well, you call her the Holy Virgin sometimes, so Mother Mary. And of course, there are different aspects then to this energy of Mary that also connected to Mary Magdalene, where there is, let's say, the erotic shadow also, or the occlusions and these mysteries of female eroticism connected to it. And these are more the energies that are harnessed through this, that is partially, let's say, the purified female energy. And this energy, it's often connected to the virginal. And this is a type of, let us say, misconception. The reason it's connected to the virginal is it's a way to encapsulate in language the sublime idea of rebirth. That is, the virgin birth is in and of itself the idea that, well, you can remain untainted by the world and still bring forward perfection into it. And this is this idea of being born anew. This is indeed the spring energy of the female, because the female energy is that which renews itself constantly. And it does so by engaging itself in the world. And these are very much the mysteries of the Sisterhood of the Rose, or some of them that are connected to it.
Beautiful, my gratitude. And our friend Salish has a question now.
Yes, hello, greetings, Aphrodite.
Greetings and love to you, Salish.
And you are loved. Okay, for me, if you're able to just scan all my energetic bodies, the physical, emotional, mental, and etheric.
Yes. Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
yes. Is there another question you would like to pose?
Oh, yes, just have to scan that and see if there are any blockages that I need to transform, and any suggestions that you may have.
Yes. Well, as I bring this forward, I will offer you advice on the last one first. And this is very common, the question of blockages. That is, when we put forward blockages or we put forward problems, that is, we who assist you from the other side, what often happens to human beings is then you focus on the problem. And the problem is that you are so powerful creators that by focusing on the problem, you amplify it. And so the problem is actually the blockage, we can say, is kind of the pebble that's stuck in the shoe. And to our perspective, we are aware that, well, we're just telling you that it would be helpful to remove the pebble, but still focus on the fact that you are walking perfectly fine. So it's this idea of actually, because you are so powerful creators, focusing on the vitality, on what's healthy within your body, while still acknowledging, of course, that there may be blockages, there may be places where, well, your vitality could grow. And that's simply that when we point out these things, it is on the backdrop that there are grand improvements taking place for so many of you. And those you rarely notice when they take place. The way you notice them is that you at some point remember, well, it's like that first broken heart you had. And at that point, well, the way that you discovered that you weren't heartbroken anymore was not that you were thinking about it, and you go, oh, now it doesn't hurt anymore. It was that you forgot to think about it. And then you discovered that you hadn't been thinking about it for a while and it didn't really bother you. So returning to the scan, dear Salish, that is, we will say that in your physical body, notice actually how little that's bothering you immediately. And so we could point to the fact that around your sacrum, around your hip area, you may still feel a little strained. You may feel that this is an area that's very hard for you to access. And a way you could grow awareness here is simply to, well, when you lie in bed at night, then place pillows or bolsters under your knees and under your legs, but below your knees. And then feel that, well, in this way, there's actually, you can also place one under your, we would say, under your shoulder blades, approximately. And then feel like that blood and weight and consciousness is actually being brought to this area, and allow for it to release on its own this blockage, not by forcing it open, but by knowing that surrendering it to the current or the life force will greatly release it. Then mentally, you are perhaps still in a place where you feel that a lifetime of struggling, of also having to defend yourself, is something that you are working to relax. That is simply to lowering your defenses. And this is something that you can also ease into. So allow again for curiosity to return, and maybe for some childhood fancy that you had partially forgotten you had to return. Then we sense within your energy body, well, your energy body has an energy of tap dancing right now. That is, you may feel that you are a little floated or a little floaty or ungrounded, that you're being carried off to places. And so what you could actually do is you could aim on eating very heavy foods in your diet, anything that brings you a type of, well, that you both find tasty, but that also has a certain weight to it. And then your spirit it's cleared out a lot in these past years in particular. So it's it's sort of connecting more to, let's say, the lower emanations of itself, the other bodies. And I will then ask you, dear one, does this help illuminate, or is there something else that you feel block you that we should look at?
Oh no, in the beginning, I giggled because I knew exactly the analogy that you used about the pebble. I've heard it before, but it's just at the back of my mind. I thank you for that. And yes, it does explain a lot. It does. And I am grateful for that. Thank you.
Much gratitude to you, Aphrodite. We have some questions from YouTube now. Joshin369 says, hello, what do you see how my next 8 days could unfold? Thank you.
Well, these are the types of safeguards that are no longer allowed. That is, well, we sense the mind that's translating us is struggling a little to unwrap this communication, because it's in many ways so complex, and at the same time it's very straightforward. And that is that many of you have been conditioned by different entities coming through this being, but certainly also by so many other beings that communicate with you in this way, that, well, the days of predicting the future are to some extent over. That is, we can give you predictions, timelines, allow for things in the future, well, lift something or reveal something, but it's really not helpful for you in the very volatile manifestation energies that exist to use, let's say, non-physical assistance or the assistance of the ethers to safeguard you in this way. Because rather what you want to do is that you want to create a very, very possible attraction for yourself. That is, there's definitely something you want to happen within these 8 days. So phrase this for yourself. Keep this in your mind. Meditate on this. That is, simply bring it forward as consciously in your mind when you have the opportunity to do so. And here you will create these flow of these 8 days, because this is far more helpful than you, well, stealing your focus away from this process, from the fact that you create your reality by saying, well, Aphrodite, she told me that, well, love would come, but I needed to watch out for the red car, because the red car might distract me from what I should be really noticing or something. And this will notice if we played that game with you, which was a game that we played with you in more dense times when you were less powerful, you were less powerful creators. It was harder to manifest for you, and therefore it was very helpful for the other side to give you clues, because that sort of attracted you down to those sensual points that you needed to go to. But right now you can really create your own reality in a more rapid pace than ever before. So, well, get cracking, dear Jochen. That is, well, swing your magic whip or magic wand, we believe is the term that we were looking for, and really bring forward these creations in the 8 days. And notice that God rested on the 7th, and one wonders what he created on the first day, on the beginning of the second week of creation. Yes, one wonders indeed. So much love to you, and may you enjoy this creation unfolding, dear one.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Seraphim Susan asks, can you tell me more about my connection with the Mayan goddess Ixchel? I was recently told I am her. Thanks.
Well, yes. And these, I am, there has been a lot of information moving through this vessel around it. But it's simply to know that, well, when you speak of the I or the M, these are essentially empty containers that you use to navigate deep infinite reality. And so when you are a certain deity or goddess, this means that, well, you have embedded that energy completely within your own energy field. And there is a deep connection here. This is true. This is why this message was discerned and then brought forward to you. But it is also for you to go exploring. So how does this speak to you? How do you feel that this message may benefit you? Does it speak to a certain energetic theme in your experience? Are there things that, well, you then feel that you want to go deeper into? Are there perhaps certain animal spirits, certain plant leaves or plants you want to grow in your home, or certain things that you want to invite in on this basis and background? And this is the way to explore this deep identity link, thereby expanding and filling the containers of I and am, these infinite vessels of exploration. Much love, dear one.
Wonderful. And Suzanne would like to speak with you now.
Thank you, Aphrodite, for coming. And I am sorry I'm a little late, but I did have a question about sacred spaces. It just came into
you
my
are in
head.
perfect timing, dear Suzanne. I wanted to thank you for being with me this day.
Thank you. Sacred spaces, that I guess that was slightly just talked about, but physical and mental sacred spaces. I know that we do create our reality, and it would make sense that a lot of the large changes that we're setting up for our environment, our physical environment around us, are going to take place to make our space more sacred. And I'm wondering how the mental connection, physical and mental connection is going. I feel like there's a lot of changes potentially in both areas. Are they related?
Yes, well, they are. The fact is, for instance, that as you may sense, one of the strangest parts of ascension, we could say, is perhaps the changes to the human body. And the way that this is actually explored is also, as your other bodies, your mental bodies, your understanding expands, and your energy body and your awareness, your capacity to, let's say, contain spiritual being expands. You also begin to see your body in new lights. And it's this same theme of, let's say, we were speaking of vanity earlier, of outwards expressions, that within a fairly simple universal pattern, or for instance, such as the human body, there is then an infinite opportunity, or apparently infinite opportunity, to explore different expressions. And well, this, we could say, of course, goes for the divine, who is indeed all of you at once, all humans who have ever been and who will ever be. But it also goes for the individual, that you actually, well, you look in a unique way, and then you move through unique phases, explorations, where there are unique expressions. And this is indeed the same with the sacred spaces. So your physical spaces are also sacred spaces, and you are learning to explore these anew. So as your awareness grows of, well, how you feel actually being in a space, and your opportunities to, let's say, manipulate with spaces, set them in the ways you please, and you have access to exotic materials and exotic objects, there you may sense that all these configurations are opened, and within a type of unique harmonic pattern of the spaces, the geometric arrangements, the proportions that speak to the human soul, you will also begin to find yourself as very individual creators trying to create these unique sacred spaces that are very conducive to your unique flow and harmonic, let's say, realignment. And this is something that so many of you are drawn to in one way or another.
Interesting. So, so my physical, the changes happening that we are making happen physically relate to the psychological changes that I'm undergoing. Is that right?
Yes, that is completely correct.
I see a lot of great future right now. I'm feeling better than I have in a long time. And I just see a whole lot of options. So thank you.
Thank you too. And know that you just saying that is also an outward manifestation and a prayer that benefits not only you, but all present here. Thank you for sharing that positivity, dear Suzanne.
Wonderful. And we have another question from YouTube. Felicia Burkhart says, I am going on a spiritual journey overseas. What do I need to see to get what would best serve me for this journey? What is my purpose in life for this journey?
This is interesting because we're getting the image of it's more of a classic ship, like a frigate or one of these ships who contain several masts and sails, and it has to do with you perhaps trimming your sails. That is the idea that you have already set the course. And so when you've already set the course, that is, you actually know your destination. The question is not to keep tinkering with the course or wondering, I know, is this correct or not? But it's to then discern what are the winds in the moment, and what sails do I need to, well, what sails need to, and well, our friend here is apologizing that he doesn't know the exact naval expressions, but they need to be put up, and some of them need to be trimmed, so some of them catch the wind and some of them are put down to avoid for steering the ship astray. And this is what you're looking for. It's actually to find this movement of discerning, where do you need to minimize, what can't you put up because it will catch too much momentum and energy for you. And this is important to you, that you may sense that you, for a while, as you take this trip, indeed, that you need to also tell yourself that you can't be anywhere, everywhere at once, that you are actually going one place. And this is the place that you're being carried because your higher self already set that course. So just feel the wind that's blowing through you from the higher self, that this is a divine manifestation of your soul purpose. And then find out what are the winds here, and how do you follow them for a pleasant cruise. Enjoy your trip, dear one, my love.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Yana D has a question. I understand that if in high vibration, the body cannot get sick. How can I run a higher vibration through my body? I had the flu last week. Thank you. Much love.
Well, It is an interesting question because notice that, well, if in a high vibration, the body cannot get sick, and this is true, but the way that the body often brings itself to a higher vibration is by getting sick. That is, well, almost all of you have some sort of toxins in your physical bodies that is indeed simply by existing in modern societies. There are, let's say, certain waste products such as microplastics or remnants of medication that's in the water, or heavy metals, or such things that are actually in your bodies. And well, if you begin to move your physical vibration to a place where your body begins to expunge and expel that from its system, well, then the symptoms you will be experiencing will feel as a kind of sickness, even though what's happening is actually your vibration is heightening. And this indeed then applies, let's say, 10, 100, 1,000-fold to your energy bodies, that so many of you have picked up. I'm looking for the most beautiful way to express this. Many cumbersome burdens on your energy field. That is simply, there's a lot of unwanted stuff that's weighing you down in your energy fields. And well, the way you shed this, the way you move through this vibrational upgrade, is actually that you allow for this stuff to be passed through, to be shedded. And this is something that will actually not feel necessarily too pleasant. So notice in all these systems of ascension, of upgrade, there are these ideas of ascension flu, of vibrational sickness, that there is actually a place that carries you into this. And then also know that, well, your vibration needs to be at least so much in tune with this earth that you can actually exist in a physical body. And so this means that there usually are some conditions for earth life where you will get sick and your physical body will perish at some time. So it's also to not necessarily beat yourself up that you are undergoing changes, fluxes, influences that may feel as disease while you are here, because there are so many of you who identify with this light work that you are also here to heighten the vibration of the collective and the planet. It is a negotiation where you have to step into the vibration of the planet to actually heighten it. Otherwise, you would just be like one of these weird, distant beings that don't have any dealings with Earth. And unfortunately, you are not. You are right here, down here, loving yourself through these difficulties. So many blessings to you, Jayana, and we are glad to hear that you are recovering from this flu, and we sense in your energy body that it has helped you to move into a healthier space.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Sada Singh says, "Hi, Mads. Thank you for everything you do. Could you please tell me why I am so drawn to the beach ocean?"
Yes, well, you have a lot of mermaid energy in you. This is a way of, well, expressing it. But you may sense that these mermaid creatures, these deep siren-like beings, these conscious beings of the sea that also exist in, say, the elfin spaces of the oceans of your planet. This is a way to approach them. These are also ancient magical inhabitants of your realms. But these are ones with whom you have quite a lot of dealings, both in the astral, but also in, let's say, in these dreamlike exchanges and in your soul trajectory. And you may also feel that within yourself there is a type of longing to dissolve, or boundaries to open and to immerse, to become wide and expansive. And this is something that well is expressed in the ocean, and you're calling towards it. our love to you, dear one.
Thank you. And Anne Hosen says, please give me a practical way to open my heart. I would be comfortable with a technique or something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, you could get a puppy. That's a very, it's I'm telling my friend here to laugh all he wants. He's trying to edit out the laughter. He thought it was a very cute response, but that's simply to say, if you're asking for practical advice, then relating to someone else who stimulates your tenderness without, let's say, provoking other more troublesome sensations. That is, those of you who are parents, for instance, may know that even though you, of course, treasure your children dearly and on a level that you could not necessarily treasure your pets, there are also very, let's say, more emotionally muddled or complex waters in relating even to children that, well, the tenderness of relating to an animal, for instance, does not do. And so we're not saying in your case, dear, and that you should have a puppy. We just wanted to say that this is actually how practical you can make the discipline of opening your heart space. But, well, if you want another discipline, then it's actually, well, it's becoming a star. We have spoken before of the Merkaba. This is the collective speaking. Let's say it's the collective oversoul that channels itself and reveals messages through this vortex. And we have spoken much of the shape of the Merkaba. And here we will just convey the message that's being asked of an easy way to open this, is to actually note that this star, it is actually a star, so it's constantly mirroring itself in ways that are both symmetrical but also mirrored. So you may want to, for instance, focus your breath on breathing from, let's say, the right nipple to the left shoulder blade, or from, well, the left outward shoulder and down into the outer side of the bottom rib, right ribs. These are ways that you can become very conscious of the expansiveness within your chest. And this consciousness itself will grow the spaciousness that will allow for, well, unicorns, puppies, love, acceptance, good, warm feelings in your life. And so I am now returning Venus, sensing that this message that was coming through from the Oversoul was of a higher dimensional quality pertaining to the opening of the heart center that is being stimulated and activated within all of you present this day. And so much love to you, dear Anne, for this question.
Beautiful, thank you. And Keiki Tree has a question. Is there a potential relationship between dementia-related symptoms and a broken heart? Can we do something on a personal or extroverted scale for our loved ones fading from lucidity? So much love.
Well, I extend my compassion to this situation. It's a beautiful question, but it also speaks to this frailty of feeling that is indeed that with this attachment, with this sweet connection to another being, you also, of course, experience the pain of the passing, of seeing someone slip from lucidity. There is not necessarily a connection between dementia and a broken heart. Rather, you may actually sense that from a spiritual perspective, not all cases of dementia, but many are manifestations where the soul wished to spend the latter part of the incarnation exploring a more immediate emotional reality. That is, it is actually often the case of people who have grown somewhat stale in in their mental structures, in their identity structures, in their way of coping with reality, that have grown quite unconscious, and that have begun to run by, let's say, more habits of operation rather than conscious choice. That this is actually then the people who will move into a state of dementia, thereby then, let's say, releasing, strangely enough, this spontaneity of the soul within the experience. Well, this can be very troubling for, of course, the people who are witnessing this from the outside. It's painful, it's difficult, it stirs difficult emotions within you. And it also, of course, provokes this sense of, say, powerlessness to do anything for your loved one other than to be there. But you may sense that from the demented perspective, so to speak, there is a strange joy within this release into the playfulness of the experience, of the forgetting. And it's sort of the same strange joy you may find in toddlers when they run crazy with something, and then it's everybody else's responsibility to pick up and clean up after them, because that's not what that spirit is exploring at that stage where it's 2.5 years old or it's deep into dementia. Rather, it's exploring just letting loose, letting the boundaries break down. But you are perhaps correct that the very rigid mental structures may have been imposed by, well, a broken heart in the first place. That is, to take an example very famously, well, a person such as the French philosopher Comte, who was the founder of the very rational mode of thinking called positivism. He was marked by my energy and experienced a very unwanted love. And so he tried to murder himself by jumping in the Seine one evening. And since it didn't happen, he instead dedicated himself to inventing a very rigid system of logical thought that didn't leave place for such nonsense and foolishness as, well, crazy love. And so this is, we hope, can also illustrate your example and can remind you of, well, also the strange play, the strange spiritual joy that is at play, even in the difficult situation that you are facing. Blessings and love to you, dear one, and to your loved ones.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Kevin has another question. Can you give me a message for my highest good in this moment in regards to loving life and existence itself that would also benefit the group? I have done some major house cleaning on my body and have also released some not so great habits of late. And I'm looking forward to this new chapter and new version of myself.
Yes. It's what is actually being transmitted is like that there's nothing wrong with a little hey. It's the idea that you actually need to recognize yourself as a physical being, as a lover, as someone who enjoys sexuality, enjoys to explore it, and enjoys to be in it, and that is a stage, or that's a force that will remain with you for the rest of your life, though it changes through lifetimes. It is not necessarily the purview of, well, of only young adults to be sexual, and then all other human beings are somewhat, well, just a diminishing emanation of this, well, pure sex drive that sort of moved through you intact when you were young. Rather, you are growing also as a sexual being, and there's a complexity within this, because there is the ability to, let's say, feel sated by less, to savor more, to appreciate more of the rich nuances that are available within the sexual exchange between adults, that is, between people who have amassed life experience and who are in many ways also more matured energetically, that have richer energies and more, let's say, confidentiality to exchange within the sexual space. And this is an encouragement, because here you may sense that there is actually an area that you have written off because you connected it much with a type of blind excitement. And now you are discovering the richness and layers also to that excitement, the fruitful possibilities of being a body that is exploring love also as a physical expression. So have fun exploring that, dear one, dear ones, all of you. May you also remember that you were made of love, and love you were made to be.
Beautiful. And that in that same line, I Mark 1 asks, would you talk about the topics of physical orgasm and heart space love? Thanks.
Yes. See, this is quite beautiful. It's a very helpful question that is being brought forward, because in my experience, there is not necessarily any opposition between these. The opposition, let's say, exists between the heartfelt love, that experience of deep emotional belonging, of being recognized, let's say, held, seen, met, welcomed within the physical exchange, the sexual exchange. And then the idea of the, let's say, the reduction to object within that. There is, of course, a definite tension here within the sexual field. But physical orgasm is in and of itself a force that transcends these aspects of, let's say, either physical gratification or emotional depth. Physical orgasm is indeed the signature, the physical signature of the creation of the universe itself. That is the thing that exists within human experience, within the human body, that most resembles the process giving rise to the universe. The totality of all that is actually the sensation of physical orgasm. And what you may notice, many of you who are also acquainted with energy work, is that there is actually a lot of the quality or the intensity of orgasm, of orgasmic energy that exists within the energetic experience, within the accumulation of energy within the body. And so the ascension can actually be described as human beings, but becoming more and more of a continual orgasm, more and more of a release of divine ecstasy, not in a moment that motivates procreation, but in the procreative existence itself, in human beings being the progenitors of new creation constantly through this ecstatic drive. And so when you are connecting to higher vibrational beings, that is, beings who exist on a higher level of joy, of ecstasy, these are actually beings who you could experience as, well, of course, not being in the act of sexual release or transmitting genetic codes in the form of different cell structures, but beings who exist in the ecstasy of orgasm, in a prolonged joyful state of excitement, as you call it. And so these are indeed aspects that you can cultivate and know, as it is also revealed within the systems of Tantra or other systems that explore the magical potential of orgasm, that you can actually also move into ascension to the heightening frequency of your own experience and to the release into infinite spiritual realms by pursuing this base frequency. And we bless you for that. Much love.
Much gratitude. And Mandy has a question. She says, my question is regarding my husband and loyal protector, Brian. From the moment we met in 1999, he has exuded goodness, wisdom, and a soft strength. I was broken spiritually, void of self-love. I had built a wall around my heart. Even though I have hurt him and betrayed him, he has remained faithfully by my side, assisting in my healing. He has supported our family of 6 while giving up his time and passions. Today, I love him fully and enjoy the peace that comes from knowing my heart is healed so that I can return the love he has given me. My question is, do we have a soul contract or previous lives together? If so, how are we doing in this one?
Well, I would like to thank you for sharing that beautiful sentiment. And the reason I am laughing is because this is again a mirroring of the exuberant vibration that exists within this coupling, because you may also sense that, well, the way that you portray him here in your loving words is much as a type of earth angel, as someone who champions you even when you feel like you haven't deserved it. And well, much of your soul contract is, well, it is to phrase this question, because we would like you to actually explore what your side of the soul contract is. We would actually like you to encourage you to explore that. What do you believe that you bring to the table? That is, what do you offer your husband, or the soul of your husband that's having the experience in terms of spirit? What is it that it is exploring and being offered in this? Because you can be assured that, well, you have a deep link with anyone that you know for 23 years, and that you have children with, and that you have this deep bond with, and ups and downs, and all these difficult situations. You can be assured that this is a main figure in your soul family, and that the two of you have certainly planned, well, not only one clause in the soul contract, but a lot of things to be experienced together. And so past lives you have had together, for instance, you may sense also in the way that you phrase this, that there are other places where you may have been the one who was more patient to your husband. So we sense, for instance, that there is this is a very, it's a strange lifetime. We're sensing we're in perhaps the early 1900s, and here, well, he's the wife, and his ambition is that he wants to get, he makes these specific types of cloths, and his ambition is to get them in a type of periodical that's very popular. We sense you're actually both British in this lifetime. We're getting around Leeds for some reason, and so, well, he has this dream of getting these sort of table quilts into a periodical, and it's driving you crazy. You know, it's in that era where you couldn't really divorce. There was also just the fact that, you know, the person you married when you were young was the person whose idiosyncrasies you really had to put up with. And that's, you actually sense that he's kind of returning the favor in this lifetime. So those are just, but you've had many lifetimes together, and it is something you could dive into. But we also sense that it's good for you to actually explore and sense, because you could intuitively tap into to what is this deep dance that your souls are having together from lifetime to lifetime. Much love to you, to Brian, to the family.
So beautiful. Thank you. I have another question. When I went through, I guess you would call my dark night of the soul here in this dwelling space, I think it's very possible that I left behind some dark blobs of my stuff. After I went through the hospital and everything, the house, I kind of emptied out the house and released about 85% of my belongings. And the house was cleaned and things like that. And just recently, I went through and did invoke the violet flame to clear and purify the dwelling space as well as the land with the elementals and the angels and the fairies that are here and the creatures that dwell here, and invoked sort of a sealing of the energy. So, and also potentially a male being, a tall, skinny, and overalls, long gray hair, escorted him through the West Gateway, and then sealed the energetic grid. So I guess I have sort of two questions. Is there anything in this dwelling space that is currently of danger to my health and well-being or my purpose for being back here? And also, did anything that I've done in sealing interfere with the elementals or other creatures that care for this land?
Well, no, you may sense that you have created quite a portal around you. But what often happens when you reach, let's say, this stage of portal building, it's much the same as you would observe moving through the vessel that's doing the translation here. That is, there's also some quite, we could say, superhighway ley lines for these beings to pass through. And so you will notice often that when you create this and when you have done, for instance, your first, wouldn't even call them expulsions, but leading people often home or leading entities often home and creating these protective grids and allowing for the natural spirits to cultivate, that there will be quite a lot of, let's say, etheric traffic around you that doesn't necessarily affect you that much because you have sort of built and maintained the etheric infrastructure, and you can actually just, well, take solace, comfort in that fact, rely on that fact.
Okay. Beautiful, perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just want to check in with Mads. We're at an hour and a half. How would you like to proceed?
Yes, well, he's telling us. I'll just open my eyes because I was thirsty. So I'll just answer for myself. I'm good for some few questions. I can roll for another 20 minutes if you have questions, guys. I'm happy to do so. I just need a sip of water.
We certainly have questions.
Wonderful. Then I'll bring back the goddess of love, and you keep rolling.
Perfect. Jennifer Tyler asks, can you give me some advice how to create a peaceful, loving space to build my new life?
Yes. It's a beautiful open-ended question, isn't it? And so open-ended beauty is actually what I would encourage you to do here. That is, be patient and be very, let's say, a kind accepting of the fact that you are missing the boundaries that you are actually trying to put in place. That is the structure that you are trying to put in place of your new loving life. It would be so nice if it was already there. And that's why you're trying to put it in place. But as seeing as it's not there, it's quite obvious that you feel a little vulnerable. And it's also understandable that you may feel a little panicked, distraught sometimes, and be patient and kind with yourself in this. And there you can simply try to remember, steer yourself back to the recollection that it's actually fun building these things from the place up. It's really fun when you know that place where you're moving, and it's you've gone through, well, cleaning your old space and handing that over, and you moved all your stuff and packed it down, and now you're in your new home. And that place, that's a funny place, because that's the place where you get to play around with all your things in a new framework and really enjoy taking in that space, making it yours. And that's where you are at in your life now. And that's sort of a new strange feeling, much as you rarely get a very good night of a first night's worth of sleep in your new place. But at the same time, it was kind of an exciting and dreamy place, and it's fun getting up in the morning and having the challenge of a whole new life to face. Much love to you in this process, dear one.
Wonderful, thank you. And Steve has another question.
Yes. So one of the things I feel is critical for my healing and sovereignty is I'm trying to make a declaration in writing out loud and in my heart space to declare that I, Stephen Jackson Frederick, am the only being in charge of my thoughts, my emotions. My body belongs only to me. Can you give any suggestions on how to strengthen or enforce this boundary, or any boundaries I should be enforcing related to my healing, or anything that I am not aware that I am working against myself on?
Well, these are quite helpful intentions, and it's very helpful. But you may remember that often the statements, the invocations you make, they are also based on the framework that they aren't necessarily intuitively completely true. So I will say something here that may be a bit stirring to some people, and that is the fact that the reason that this statement is powerful, that your body belongs solely to you, the reason that this also something that you strive for as, well, communities to uphold as a legal right, well, the sovereignty of your own bodies to not be violated in that, is because indeed your bodies are in, let's say, the process of violation all through life, that you actually begin as a body being, well, let's say quite literally jacked into the mother, and then you move into these different spaces where you are sort of both enmeshed and contained and condensed, and sometimes also violated or beat or infringed upon in different ways. But the fact is actually that your body is in constant exchange with the outside world. The foodstuffs you take in are in constant exchange with the outside world. So what you can actually do is that you can instead invoke the sovereignty of vibration, because your vibration, your spiritual self, your higher self, is completely sovereign, is something that cannot be stirred, cannot be moved, cannot be violated by any force in the universe. And this is the place where, well, the fact that you create your own reality is such a powerful statement, because it's actually from this point that your sovereignty emanates into this world, emerges into this world. And so a way that you can then move from the physical into this, that is, we are not necessarily invalidating your statement. We are only saying it's powerful because it's actually insisting on an integrity, on a control, a center, a locus within you that needs to be conjured up. And another way of approaching this is actually that you may want to get explicitly physical. That is, you may want to get into, we sense boxing, kicking, violent emotions or ways of expressing yourself, perhaps also strengthening your musculature in one way or another. Training that may be things that you may feel would really empower you, bring forward this energy, this intention, anchor it in the world.
Okay, thank you. I've been starting to exercise more and stuff like that, so I'll continue to do that. Thank you for the suggestions.
Yes, and please be patient in this and notice that, well, this change is a change in vibration, and you will notice the change by simply stating one day that you actually feel different than you usually do.
Thank you. And I do notice the heart space coming into higher vibration, and appreciate the help that you and others provide in our self-development.
Much gratitude. And there is a question from E Corp that may be better in a personal session. So I wonder if instead you have a message for E Corp that might be of service.
Well, we sense simply, dear friend, that at this place where you are at, it would be good for you to remember that you only have two hands. And so try not to latch on to too many things, or try not to sprout hands, extra hands to, as the proverbial Hindu deities from a different pantheon than the one I belong to, that you sprout too many hands to help and assist mankind, but instead recognize that you only have two and focus your effort on controlling those two masterfully. And then that will be enough to suffice. That is the essential message that I send to you, this idea of composure, this energy of restfulness and love.
Thank you. And much love and gratitude is being expressed for yourself and for Mads. And Beauty Joan 03 asks, can you tell me if I have an aspect of you? Any message for me how to rise up my Kundalini awakening? Thank you.
Well, I generally sense that where you are at is that you are still a little incredulous to these things actually being real. That is, I'm not questioning your faith. I'm not saying that you need to believe more in it, but it's rather that you may want to seek out some quite powerful techniques, because you actually you are in this adventurous space where you want to really show yourself that these spirits realms are real. And so you may want to get into intensive Kriya work, such as is undertaken in Kundalini Yoga. You may want to seek out this, but we do sense that it's again this idea of, well, sweat lodging, going on vipassana, going on rebirthing retreats, perhaps going to plant medicine retreats, or experimenting yourself with these things, retreating into silent or silence, or moving into the wilderness by yourself for a few days. It's all these transcendental spaces where you may provoke something that's actually not violent, but very forceful, something that will take, that's undeniable in its intensity, and it will take some time for you to integrate, explore, and understand. This is the kind of experience that you are looking for. And so enjoy this, because it's it's a very interesting, it's a very curious, it's a very playful place to be. But there is, of course, also well, we are bringing forward a saying from, translating it here, but the idea that the burnt kid shuns fire, the idea that you may also get more than you bargain for, and that's a whole part of being down here and having fun with intensities. So much love to you, dear one.
Thank you. And Salish would like to speak with you.
Greetings again, Aphrodite.
Greetings, dear Salish.
It's just a quick question before I get any little ticking off from you. Have you got any messages for me?
Yes. Well, I am simply sensing that there is a type of, it's a birthday cake being brought forward to you, and there are people singing around it. So it speaks to the idea of you having reached the cycle, and people around you recognizing that and wanting to also celebrate you for it. So remember sometimes that even if you feel like it's a little silly to blow out the candles, you do it because the grandchildren feel like it's a lot of fun that you do it. Like it's that aspect of also, allowing for other people to celebrate you, for other people to be happy that you have been a part of your life, a part of their life, and to acknowledge that you have also undergone a cycle that's completed, and that it's fun for you to move into this new space.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. Thank you very much indeed.
Wonderful. And Miss Sophia has another question. She asks, if we fall asleep during a channeled meditation, do we still receive the transmission and benefit from it? Much love.
Yes. Well, the simple answer is yes. That is, but notice again, it's on the question on what you want to exactly attract for it, because you may sense, dear one, also pertaining to another question that we sense may not necessarily be asked, but where you are asking for checking in from when we last communed. And that is, and then another question also that we can repeat, where you are asking on how to gain or obtain light language. And so all these questions we are weaving together to illustrate for you, well, this idea that when you focus, that is when you select something, when you concentrate on your own power, you are actually allowing for a condensation of your own being into this realm. And so if you have this fear of missing out around things, then you may sense that, well, too many chefs spoil the broth. That is, you may sense that if you are afraid of receiving the transmission, this is actually what's blocking you for receiving the transmission. But if you are aware that you are always receiving the very right code, that is, everything is in divine timing, then this reprogramming will receive you without obstruction and will affect you in the way that it needs to. This speaks also to light language. That is, light language is your higher self moving into the vibrational adjustment of the moment in the physical and allowing for this to flow through. And so the way you do this is that it is not something that you need to obtain. It is like turning on a shower that's already there within you. And so have no fear that the water will pour forward in the way that it needs to pour forward, because it's simply something that's there. And as you concentrate, you tune in to moving this. So also checking in with you, addressing this last message, you may sense that you would want to reduce the things that you say grasp for, that there are more rewards in reaching for fewer things. This is the gift that we offer to you, dear one. Our love, our blessings.
Thank you. And one last question from Mandy. She asks if there are any general messages from yourself or her guides. So much gratitude and love.
Well, the message is simply to enjoy the harmonies in your life. That is, seeing as you have already brought forward some quite harmonious celebrations of your circumstance here this evening, that is, I simply mirror this back to you and say, notice how much harmony there is in your life, and then ask yourself, simply, humbly, gratefully, as you are good at doing already, well, how did I manage to attract all these wonderful things into my life? There must be something that within my being, that is your being, Mandy, that you take for granted because it's already there, that you can actually only observe by the fact that it is what has attracted this loving reality into your life. And that may indeed be the frequency of the divine loving woman and what she also offers to her loved ones. My love.
Beautiful. And we are so grateful to you, Aphrodite. All of our love and gratitude to yourselves and Nads.
Yes, and I am sure he will also express his gratitude as I leave you this day. But before he does so, I will leave you with, well, bringing forward certain frequencies, that which you can describe as light language, attuning it, and to this space, to this unique frequency that's created by all of you tuning in to this in this moment and in the future. Ole, alwal, 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 lalilue, umewankilue, ueni wali wen wal wangeni alwal alwali anre. Imi hui from these universal vibrational potentials, these broad baselines of creation, these vibes hidden within you and moving around you, you discern what language it is that you speak, what specific poem that it is that you are speaking in this lifetime, that your being is expressing. What are the unique light frequencies that are being discovered by being you and by being seen as you, in you, by you, of you? Forever you are surrounded by love. Forever you are creating in this medium of love. Forever you are receiving this love and acceptance from the high heavens and from the lowest manifestations of the material. All was created from this abundance, from this willingness to be, to breathe, to laugh, and to love. Therefore, my gratitude for all that we have shared this day. I transmit the love of the deities and the heavens, of high and low, to you. I, Aphrodite, my love is infinite. Thank you for sharing it with me. Farewell. She's a very sweet presence. I must say that, and thank you so much for all the beautiful questions and the overwhelming amount of lovely energy, and for being here, so many of you guys, and I think I'm a little woozy. There will be some live streams on the end of in the end of February. I'm sure we'll plan it out, but much love to you everyone, and have a lovely Sunday, whatever's left of it over there. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
Matt. Thanks.
You too.
And Laura, thank you.
Love to everyone.